Okay. We on. Hey, coming on late like this, been having a few technical issues. It seems like the more we do these, the more technical issues we have. We're gonna go ahead and start here very shortly though, because it's after 9 o'clock. And we won't be doing a long one tonight, but we definitely gonna dive in and talk about redistricting. Um, redistricting is an issue that is a hot topic, always is a hot topic, but it has been ultra politicized, if you can believe that, in the last couple months underneath the new president, President Trump. So before President Trump was in office, you had typical redistricting that happened every 10 years, and it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big issue, right? Um, you had partisan infighting um, within the redistricting process, but that was always normal because again, when we talk about redistricting, we're talking about changing who has. Sorry about that. We're talking about changing who has control of what. Sorry about that. Talking about who has control of what. So what actually, for the basic perimeter, is redistricting? And again, it's a basic um, process which should ensure fairity across the board. Like I said, I've been having technical issues real quick. Redistricting occurs every 10 years after the U.S. Census, which counts the population. Process involves adjusting the boundaries. Very simple. When I first got elected, my district shifted after the first session. So I actually got to see the redistricting process in Missouri originally. I got to see the infighting. Um, I got to see politicians go after each other immediately after the redistricting once they was drawn into each other's district. So again, it's always been a contentious issue. It's always been politicized, but it has never been, from my understanding or memory, politicized from the presidential office. Why does this make it dangerous? Let's look at some of the key states that the president has been going after. I can get this to play. It's killing, really. And what makes it so bad, chat, I went over everything before I even started and then started having technical
After
issues.
another heart surgery, he embraced a near vegan. Makers will hold a special session Friday to redraw their state's congressional districts. The session is expected to grant the GOP an extra seat in the House of Representatives. Missouri
Let me know if y'all
is
can't hear it
following
till I turn
Texas's
it up.
lead, where a new electoral map passed earlier this month. Blue states like California have vowed to counter.
So in here, it starts talking about Missouri. It shows you the proposed map. I got a better proposed map for you guys, or at least past map. Haven't been able to pull up the authentic map. But when you look at the redistricting map, you see that it significantly shifts the fifth district, the current fifth district. It's really playing with it. Let me get back to the map. The current fifth district resides right here. This little node right there, right? The new proposed fifth district will encompass all of this. Now, if you look in Missouri, you'll see that the original fourth district, which is Republican, is now more than half of the new proposed, I don't know why I keep saying proposed, of the new fifth district. And these maps passed a little over a month ago. The president has been leading a concurrent push, and I'm gonna get to why I'm starting with this. Excuse me. I had his map put up too. What happened to his map? I think this is it. Okay, so it starts talking about some of the states that he's going at, which would be North Carolina. We've already seen Texas fold. We've already seen Missouri fold. This is the right one. Ohio was already under a court order to withdraw its map. Utah has always been a battle state underneath his eyes. And we see California. And there's a few other states. This is not the map that I have pulled up. I'm not going to try to memorize it because I don't like to be wrong. But North Carolina, Texas, Missouri, Ohio, we've definitely seen in play. And probably, I'm not going to guess on the swing states because, again, I don't want to be wrong. And that's not the map I had. But this map became interesting to me when I started looking at the overlay of the maps in the states in which we see is in play. Now, this map right here looks similar to some of the states that you see that are having redistricting issues. You see Texas. You see in this map, Missouri would have been a border state. It's California all the way over here. You see Ohio. Ohio would have been a northern state. But you see a lot of southern states in here. And this is a map of the Confederacy, northern and southern states. And what made me think about this topic tonight in particular was this video right here. And this is our congressman. And before I play the video, I actually have no issue with Congressman Mark. I know him. He's cool. I'm not talking about his politics. Never actually paid attention to his policies or his politics. We've always served at different levels. When I first met him, he was a news anchor. So he's always been polite to me. So it's not a hit piece, Mark. I'm not coming back. However, if he was sitting here, I would have a few questions. And these questions are questions I'm going to pose to you, chat, as we talk about redistricting. Missouri's map that's just been redistricted. Texas' map that's been redistricted. Some of the civil unrest.
Hi, this is Congressman Mark Alford. It is day 14 of the Schumer shutdown. America held hostage. I'm doing a little work from home, about to get out on the road to visit some more rural hospitals, but we gotta.
I'm gonna do it again. And again, I have no idea why this stuff is giving me so much issues right now. And again, for those that are just joining, we going over some of the redistricting.
Well, hi, this is Congressman Mark Alford. It is day 14 of the Schumer shutdown. America held hostage. I'm doing a little work from home, about to get out on the road to visit some more rural hospitals, but we got a weird knock at the door today. A guy who was collecting signatures to try to stop the redistricting in Missouri, which would mean that we would keep the current boundaries, the current district. I'm not in favor of that. I'm backing Governor Mike Kehoe in the state legislature in the redistricting of the 4th congressional district. But
I don't know what's going on my computer right
I
now.
want to share with you a little of the encounter I had with this man. He's not from here. He's from Michigan, trying to change things here in Missouri, which I don't get.
People, not politicians.
Yeah, Chad, I
That's
have
who
no
you're with?
idea what's
Yeah.
going on.
That's who's calling. And where are you from?
I have no idea what's going on with my computer right now, Chad. It's kind of concerning. It's one of the reasons I came on late because, again, I checked everything and it was running perfectly. No, it ain't running. But I'm going to replay this a little bit. This is the part of the video that made me want to talk about redistricting.
It's the current district. I'm not in favor of that. I'm backing Governor Mike Kehoe and the state legislature in the redistricting of the 4th Congressional District. But I wanted to share with you a little of the encounter I had with this man. He's not from here. He's from Michigan, trying to change things here in Missouri, which I don't get.
Not politicians. That's who you're with? Yeah, that's who's calling. And where are you from? Michigan. And can I take a look at that? Yeah. So what does this do now? It's about having.
I'm going to stop this video, paraphrase what happened in the rest of it.
In regards to,
So basically, what the congressman asked him was, what is this about? What is the petition? Asked him where he's from. If y'all heard, y'all can hear that he said Michigan. And then the congressman sort of asking him, why would he be in our state? I'm paraphrasing again. Why would he be in our state trying to change our redistricting process? Which became really interesting to me because our redistricting process this time around was influenced, supported, motivated, and pushed through by DC. Wouldn't that be outside the state? And again, I know Mark, and if he sees it, I'm definitely talking to you personally. Tell me, what's the difference, bro? If you got an issue with him coming from Michigan to get Missouri petitions signed, why don't you have an issue with the executive branch coming to a state to influence local governance? Isn't that a Republican pillar? Right? So I'm talking to the libertarians, the regular Republicans, the mega Republicans, anybody that falls up underneath that R ideology. Isn't state rights supreme? Doesn't state rights go as high as heritage? And if state right goes as high as heritage, why do you only have an issue when somebody comes in the state to fill out a petition, initiative petition, and you don't have a problem when the executive branch of government seemingly violates all restrictive boundaries of the executive branch of federal government? All right. And I know we've been talking about the lack there of anything constitutional that's been valid or being held up. But last night, chat, I told you guys about a video that I found from the 40s. And I found it interesting that if we start examining the evidence in the dots, it becomes almost crystal clear what world governance and country governance means. And again, if y'all got questions, I'm going to try to ask them as it goes. If I miss it, what's going on, Thursday?
We have several other people in the country, even among the Jews, the Zionists particularly, who were against anything that was to be done if they couldn't have the whole of Palestine and everything handed to them on a silver plate so they wouldn't have to do anything. It couldn't be done. You have to take small doses. You can't move 5 or 6 million people out of a country and fill it up with 5 or 6 million more and expect both sets of them to be pleased. We had all sorts of objections to everything that was done. Something had to be done. We went ahead and done it. I don't think that decision to recognize Israel was an easy one. I had to make a compromise with the Arabs and divide Palestine. Well, there were a lot of Jewish people against me because they want the
This
whole
is-
Palestine. As I say, they want to drive all the Arabs into the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
Damn, really?
We had several other
Interesting.
people in the country, even among
We're gonna
the
come back.
Jews, the Zionists particularly, who were against anything that
I don't give a fuck how many times I mess up. I'm gonna get this shit off. And it's the reason why I go live, because I don't have to trip. We just gonna keep rolling with the flow. But it's interesting that we see that, and that was in 1948. Huh. And he said they had to do something, they had to create something, right? But then we hear, I think this is the wrong one, but we about to find out. Then we hear this. This is the right one. Should be.
This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up too. It's going to hold up.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, because I'm getting confused, because I could have swore this dude didn't talk about 3,000 years to figure out where they was putting who. It just seemed like it was
we had several other people in the country, even among the Jews, the Zionists particularly, who were against anything that was to be done if they couldn't have the whole of Palestine and everything handed to them on a silver plate so they wouldn't have to do anything.
Just out of curiosity, where are my pastors at on here? Because I didn't do real good in geography. And I want to make sure that I'm not misunderstanding names and continents.
Thing.
Keep going.
It
It's gonna play right eventually. It's gonna play right.
couldn't be
I'm gonna will it to play.
done. We had to take it in small doses. You can't move 5 or 6 million people out of a country and fill it up with 5 or 6 million more and expect both sets of them to be pleased. We had all sorts of objections to everything that was done. Something had to be done. We went ahead and done it. I don't think that decision to recognize Israel was an easy one. I had to make a compromise with the Arabs and divide Palestine. Well, there were a lot of Jewish people against me because they wanted the whole of Palestine. As I say, they want to drive all the Arabs into the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
Most
We had several other
Americans, we don't pay attention to lineage or history, which is not surprising, because if you study American history, American people, and it's the reason why I talk like this, and I'm gonna get to it. American people have been put in the silos. So I often talk about color openly, but I'm honest and strategic how I implement culture. Because in America, culture has been manipulated time and time again for cultural separation and mass control, right? But 3,000 years, according to the president, peace deal that would never be overturned. But then
From some Israelis on the ground, they want to know how the peace holds when you are not the president. So 3 years from now,
I can't answer it. I know this, and you are all witness. We go, and I get 25,000.
so if it's a historic deal that should never be overturned, that has been on the table for 3,000 years, what's the issue? And how does this tie into redistricting? How does this tie into the potential recolonization that we're seeing worldwide? And again, in Politics is War, we're going to take our time and examine politics, policies, and what is actually happening. This is your free rights, your free will. I'm about to get to that question. I started this video and the computer's messing up, so I'm gonna get to it real quick. I just don't want to keep pushing pause.
Fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here! He's a citizen! He's a citizen! He's a citizen!
Now, not
He's a citizen!
You don't know what's going on, so get the fuck back. Let go.
not going into too much detail, but this is extremely dangerous. If y'all can see the way this dude is postured on top of this cat, not only is it dangerous because it shows this ICE officer really doesn't have any type of training. This young man is probably scared for his life right now, and definitely doesn't want to do anything illegal to catch a felony or anything like that, because spitting, touching, hitting, menacing, threatening, or anything like that to an ICE officer could be immediate felony and reason for detention. But my reason for stopping right here and talking about lack their training, this isn't how you properly hold somebody down. Anybody that practices any type of martial arts and jiu-jitsu or anything combat orientated will be a problem right here. Right? And if this is how law enforcement is apprehending and holding people, it lets me know that they haven't been properly trained. I don't know if we're going to get into the videos tonight, but there's videos that you're going to see with these cats walking around with gas masks and AR-15s and M16s. You're not going to be accurate with obstructive gear on your face. But let's get back to where we was at with the redistricting. Question. Sorry about that. Yes, 1947, they moved the so-called Jews to Palestine and called it Israel. They're not the real Jews, but get 10% time from the American people, from the American government. The Bible calls them the so-called Jews. Those that say they're Jews but are not, they sold identity. We are scattered chosen to Israel, and Jesus, the King of the Jews, was whitewashed into American white boy. Now they want, this is a separate question, now they want the whole country of Palestine and are genocide with them on our tax dollars. I'm going to touch lightly on some of this. I'm not going to go too deep because I don't have my religious tapes set up yet. But when you talk about stolen identity, Joshua or Jesus, and lineage, I think this is one of the reasons people should be cognizant of words, terminology, restrictive language, and rules of engagement. Give you an example of all of those. Words and terminology lead to laws and consequences. Rules of engagement are typically created by those that are in power and or those that are organized in the masses. Words have meanings. America has always been referred to as what? And I'm not talking about a melting pot. There's always been referred to as an experiment. You mentioned the whitewashing and the Jews. What did I just say? Laws and covenants have constraining factors for those that buy into the regulatory authority. In America, our laws and our systems have a direct correlation to symbolism of old Rome. Even when we talk about the governmental structure, and I said all that to go into lineage, not to necessarily going deep into the Bible or anything like that, or the Quran or any of that right now. You can, and I ask questions, but lineage. So the average so-called minority, we think day to day, and we think possibly one generation in, right? And that's only modernized, I believe, because we have a little bit of luxury to be able to somewhat plan. Folks that have privilege, they think 3 to 4 generations in, and time frames is closer. When you die at damn near 100, and your child is 70, and their child is 55 and 60, all of that associated knowledge and resource is closely passed down and accumulated. And so is generational accession and beliefs. So in America, if these are descendants of ultra wealthy individuals, and none of them are descendants of original Americans or Aboriginals, it makes you wonder.
And it was like they got shot with a dart in the jugular. I can take like methamphetamine and rabies. Okay. And it was like they got shot.
It makes you wonder if these are the cats that are leading the free world. And we can say Elon is no longer hanging with Trump, but if you actually follow policy, and we're going to get into it, you'll see that he has more contracts than ever. He's making more money than ever, and these are U.S. dollars. But if these cats are the leaders of the free world and they're descendants of generational wealth and strategic planning, do you not think what we're facing right now is possibly more than accidental? When you have regulatory changes across the board, and I saw her last night, but her statement is still powerful for those that aren't following what is happening financially.
I just want to be on record saying that I told you so.
Like, this shit is crazy, bro. I never actually have issues with this computer. Oh. And it's not like this new material. This is pre-recorded material. Why try so long to make sure I check, make sure I'm not missing anything. If this doesn't play, what she's talking about is a financial backdrop of not dark money, but dark financial banking, which is something all the way new, which is coming about with the Genius Act. For those that haven't been following along, we're seeing underneath the president's administration, and we're going to get into those videos. I may not try it tonight, but we're going to see financial and housing markets becoming federalized. Now, I served at the local level, and the shit that I seen on the council, man, look here, bro. I would be scared if the city council of Kansas City or St. Louis, and I'm not talking about folks up there, but I do know some of the political gamesmanship. I'd be fucking terrified if I had to rent property from the government. Yeah. I don't think I would feel free if my mortgage lender was the United States government. Even with the possibility of universal cash. Hasn't they been talking about that? I got that video, but again, I'm kind of scared to try to go to all of them tonight.
Perhaps most troubling about the Genius Act, it undermines the separation between commerce and banking. Walmart, Amazon, Meta, and all these are exploring the use of this right now. What sorts of risk are we talking about? And again, pretend our moms are watching this. Like, explain it, because I need them to understand what my...
And watch my man when he comes in. They are scrambling and blocking when you start giving up. Hey, something is going on. Cause my shit been cool, bro. And I actually know about a lot of this technology, and I'm gonna get into some of it. Some of this shit sounds crazy, but as a state rep, I've actually sat in committee hearings and heard testimony against some of the technology that can actually tap your I don't want to say the wrong name, but it can tap your phones, read all of your transmittal data. It's a tower. It's a mobile tower. I don't want to be wrong on the name right now, though. But I've actually sat in several different committees. For a few years, I was the ranking member, Democrat ranking member on security in Jeff City. So when we talk about spy style technology that is normalized, yeah, a lot of that stuff is real. Come on, bro.
Colleagues' lack of action or enabling right now is going to cause real impact on their lives.
The biggest risk is that people are going to conclude, based on what is likely to pass, that these new financial instruments that have no legitimate social purpose are properly regulated by the federal government. And that is the biggest fraud on the public out there.
I told people, Amazon and Facebook could do shadow banking that could spill over to commercial financial sectors, yes or no?
You're going to be legitimizing a new financial product that's highly volatile, littered with conflicts of interest and almost no regulation, but there'll be a claim of regulation and legitimate.
Getting back to 1947, I'm glad you came in with 1947. Getting back to 1947 and what was actually happening across the war, excuse me, not war, across the war at that time. We had new rules and regulations being implemented. We had an emerging industrial revolution popping off. We had world powers shifting in global control. In 48, 50 years, 60 years, sounds like an extremely long time. Until you realize that in the world of politics and policy, 10 years is one. In most instances, when you have a law, ordinance, piece of legislation that passes, it doesn't enact immediately, right? It usually takes about a year or so, whatever the time frame is for it to enact. So it doesn't enact immediately because it's not meant to have traumatic impact on any of the American institutions, any of the justice institutions or financial institutions or whatever institutions that it is. But you have open and clear financial disruption, open and clear universal digitization of access to data.
Current law, French Hill can't issue a payment stablecoin as a member of Congress, right?
Because that's the laws.
Because that's existing
rules
law.
of the House of Representatives.
Correct.
Prohibit that.
And a member of the Senate can't issue a payment stablecoin under current law, right?
Because of the ethics rules of the Senate.
Okay. And senior executive officials within the executive branch can't issue a payment stablecoin today.
Because of the Ethics in Government Act.
Correct. But the President of the United States can.
That's because the U.S. government law does not apply these kinds of.
And the question is, why don't we? I'm not asking.
No.
I understand your point. The point is, if we're saying that every other member of the federal government can't issue a payment stablecoin,
Now, most people
wouldn't it be?
is looking at the hustle, right? The hustle. The president has made billions of dollars since assuming the presidency. The president has created his own coin and is making money off of it. We heard commentary from people last night that the stock market has been crashing. And I can't remember the exact statement, but he made a statement of something that happened last Friday after the president tweeted out something. I don't want to be wrong with what he tweeted out. And yes, all of this is happening. We're seeing market manipulation in front of our eyes. You're seeing mega supporters financially benefiting by supporting unstable presidential coins. Am I mad at them for benefiting off of unstable presidential coins? Not the benefiting factor, because if you can figure out how to flip a dollar, I'm not mad at you. But this is the president that's doing it. And I always try to look beyond the first dimension. And if the first dimension is highly, what's the word I want to use? Attracting, not attractive, but attracting to the eyes, trying to get you to look at it, then it's probably something happening over here. All right? And the first dimension shows you that the American dollar is not respected by the president, but the stable coins that is being implemented by the tech generals is. And I'm not saying tech generals to be funny, but didn't he generalize? Didn't the federal government generalize Meta and a few other high-tech individuals? And they said that they did it because we have to have a war department, excuse me, not defense, a war department that has war IT capabilities to be able to secure the American citizens. Sounds like they built an infrastructure. It sounds like the more we see cats that think this is normal and should be normal and is willing to comply to what is not normal, it will be normal.
I've got everything in my backpack. My birth certificate. I got my ID.
Why'd you have it in your backpack?
I had some business to take care of with the Illinois Department of Public Aid. I went there earlier in the day.
So at no point did they allow you to show your birth certificate or any other?
They didn't want to see nothing.
I've heard.
They didn't want to see nothing. They had the word ICE on their back, so I knew who they were. And I asked them, why are you guys taking me? I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm not an illegal.
And I don't want to judge a book by its cover, because anybody can be anybody. But he doesn't look like he's a mule. He doesn't look like he's a kingpin. He doesn't look like he's a threat at his age right now at all. He does look like he's not unused to living in America and having to produce papers. And that's a problem. It's a problem that my children have a very realistic possibility of living in an environment in which they have no access to individual rights. And that would be on our watch. That would be us sitting back and allowing secession to play out in front of our eyes. I often talk about how I'm Native and African, definitely know the Native. We're watching secession play out in front of our eyes, and we could talk about being descendants and scattered. And if that's true, and if people believe that in any capacity, I got a very basic, simple question for you guys. This is just a question. Let's say the head of your family passed away, right? Let's say the head of your family had a chair and a piece of property that they always sat at. And let's say I just came there and sat there. And when I started sitting there, I was like, look here, this is what it is. Would you be wrong not to follow my authority? Would you be right to follow my authority? because we got regulated, established protocol now, would you be wrong for not taking back your inheritance? Or would you be wrong for taking back your inheritance? And that's one of the questions that I like to ask, in particular Christians, and I use them for certain reasons in this one, because they always talk about being scattered. And that's, if it's true, and you have understanding that I'm sitting on your property, you can't blame me. You can blame me when you was confused to ownership of property. But once understanding becomes clear, how can one rationalize not doing anything different? And if we say it's because it's what is supposed to happen, this is why what is supposed to happen becomes normal, right? When you comply to what you know you shouldn't comply to, then it becomes regulation, and then you're wrong if you violate regulation, right?
Because of that, let me just start by saying that you're here this afternoon because I signed the ICE agreement. Yes, I signed the damn thing because we really had to. We were put in a tough spot. I can't let our entire.
You can't do both. You can't say, yeah, I signed the damn thing with a little bit of aggression and then talk about it. Right? Sometimes I talk graphic and I apologize, but I don't. You can't come in here and defecate shit on my couch and don't think I'm going to do anything. Now, I can't stop you from sitting on my couch, but I can definitely make sure that you realize that sitting on my couch was the wrong thing to do. Some things you can do to guarantee that you can never sit on the couch again. But this is not it. This is not it right here. And this is going to continue. And I'm only talking about the rules right here, not the news report.
Immigrant advocates in Chicago, the ruling finding ICE is conducting illegal arrests in violation of a consent decree that limits warrantless arrests in the Chicago area of responsibility. That includes Illinois and 5 neighboring states. Collateral arrests are people.
But we already know this, right? For the last 7 months, everything that we've seen has been illegal. Going back to redistricting now. Before we get off, we like to close out proving the points. Okay. See, I had the tabs pre-set up, man. I was all ready just to keep flowing. It's back to redistricting. This is not the page that I want. It talks about the process. You don't really need the process because the process is somewhat simple depending on what state you are in and what agreements both parties make. Usually it's either a nonpartisan group or sometimes you can have a partisan group. They usually agree on the outcome, vote on it. Now my whole screen is white. All right. Didn't. Interesting. Yeah, I think I didn't research too much shit. Research. Straight up. Oh man, this is actually funny. We're gonna get something to play. Like, really hilarious. All right, so this is theater right here, and before I play it, since shit ain't been playing right, the reason I say it's theater, you have a supremacy clause in law, right? So you got federal authority, state authority, jurisdictional authority. So when you have a state governor that postures like this, not only is it dangerous, it's misleading. Yes, something can happen after the fact, but who is going to actually be able to do it? There is a certain thing called presidential immunity.
Administration for the things that they did because the statute of limitations won't have run. Those will turn someday. These people should recognize that maybe they're not going to get prosecuted today, although we're looking at doing that. But they may get prosecuted after the Trump administration for the things that they did because the statute of limitations won't have run.
Okay, so again, it looks like we're looking at two things. Governor of Illinois is saying that, they're looking at ways to be able to prosecute them, which shows, or at least alludes to the fact that they believe everything they're doing is illegal. So if you know or you believe what they're doing is illegal, there shouldn't be underlying compliance because you have no authority to regulate them from a federal level, right? State redistricting. I'm just going through it because I can't get the videos and the maps and all that good stuff to play. State regulation. If we have a midterm elections that's coming up and the House and the Senate is in need of control, and we're seeing that need be played out across the states in high tension, invasion, detention, and population disbursements. If this is true, if the midterms are won, then it's standard new business, right? What happens if the midterms are lost? If the midterms are lost, do these new militarized zones become encampment zones? Because all of the Constitution has already been violated. Like, I ain't gonna say all of it because there is a few clauses in there of how to recall and pull out the president, impeach the president. Those haven't been broken yet. Oh shit, the due process and all that. We can't take it back until before I even keep going, yeah, you're right. We can't take it back until we unify. If we don't know it's ours, just like in politics, if you are the only brother willing to tell the truth, you know exactly how it feels to be sitting there looking at people who know damn well shouldn't even. Yeah, I do. And that's why I talk so loud. And with them, there was no culturalistic relationship. There wasn't even any policies that you would see that would be supported across the board. I'm gonna do a show on that too, because I pulled up McGee's bills and I didn't pull up mine. I know people didn't catch the while I was laughing, but I'm gonna pull up a list of my bills that I filed, and you'll be able to see who co-sponsored, who didn't co-sponsor, but you will see the type of legislation that we was going after. And this becomes important when you talk about racial demographics. And it's one of the reasons why you hear me openly work with a source level of Republicans. I'm not going to say all because there's a lot of mixtures and different cultures in there, but there's a source level of Republicans and ideologies that I can rock with that is similar to low income living and understanding, right? Which supersedes culture. It becomes a leveling understanding or a societal understanding. And then there's a level of both Democrats and Republicans that I don't engage at all. And if the masses paid attention to what they said and the policies that they wrote, they would understand why Republicans and Democrats conflict verbally, but you see no blood in the streets and no blood on legislation. You don't see that. You'll see co-signing across the board because it becomes mutual classism benefits, right? Society is separated in classes. The majority of people don't touch the classism aspect, but we fall into the silos of dogma, political ideology, and other social imprints that have nothing to do with genetics or culture. So you're right about unifying, but I don't think we have time to try to galvanize and organize and do all that shit. I think observation leads to participation. And the more we observe, the more we participate. Right now, we observing and we're participating in madness. And that solidifies that. The more we don't, right, it doesn't solidify it. We have a social contract that we uphold. Yeah, they are. They're rolling out Project 2025 and militarizing the cities. But this is what makes it so interesting and confusing to me. I'm gonna use the Willie Lynch law as an example because I used to have issues with this. So I'd be around a lot of when I was young, be around a lot of so-called activists, preachers, etc. And I always refer to the Willie Lynch letter. It's the Willie Lynch letter. This is what's going on. And my question would be, well, fuck. If they wrote a letter talking about how to break us, why don't we reverse engineer that letter? That seems like, and this is me young, that seems like the most plausible thing to do, right? If you write a book on how to contain me and lock me up and to break my will, then you also gave me the blueprint on how not to be contained, how not to be locked up, how not to be broken. All right, I'm gonna do the opposite of everything that you're trying to do against me. So I agree with you. I also agree with you with Project 2025. But if they put out a pamphlet and a blueprint of what they're doing and what they're trying to do and what they're going to do, wouldn't it only behoove those that aren't part of that agenda to do the exact opposite, to not let them do it? If my agenda says I need to go, I'm gonna make up a crazy scenario just because. If my thing says I need to go get 100 pounds of cement to be able to do something, and I only get 25 pounds of cement because you stopped me from getting the other 75, whatever I was doing with the 100 pounds of cement, I can't do. I just got 25 pounds of wasted cement. And I say that those that are engaged, those that are watching the redistricting and wondering why they're redistricting in states, and again, I'm just gonna go after the ones I can remember because of the videos in play. Texas, Missouri, Ohio, Cali. We can say that it's only for the midterms, but this is high level strategy, right? This is high level infiltration to say that we're going to change all of the policies because we know people are going to follow policies, even if they want to or not. And if they don't, we have something else contingent upon that. And we're letting them put the infrastructure in place. And I'm saying that because, again, just going back to your comment, according to their blueprint, they want to change the infrastructure because it gives them what? Legal authority. Slavery had legal authority. That shit was legal. It wasn't moralistically right, but it was legal. And by it being legal, most people agree with it, even if they didn't agree with it. That's madness. Going back to the comment about Yahshua, Jesus, and being descendants and scattered. How can the light of the world dance in the darkness and hide his light because the darkness created the rules? That don't sound like shining light to me. I mean, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. How does it shine so bright at night? What if that twinkle, twinkle, little star conform? Would it shine as bright at night? Funny thoughts, right? Hilarious. But the redistricting and again, I'm trying to catch them as they come in. But the redistricting, thank you, it's all God. But the redistricting and the madness that we're seeing state to state is probably more coordinated than what we're seeing. American theater, exceptionalism, and experimentation are very closely tied together. All right. We heard from, not pulling it back up because it's messing up, but we heard from our illustrious president in 1947 that they had to do something, and there was a whole bunch of people against it, and they came up with a few plans. What were they planning? We heard from our current president that he created a peace deal for 3,000 years that wasn't even mentioned 50 years ago when the former president talked about what they had to do over there. He wasn't like, America's here to make sure that we fix this 3,000-year-old conflict. Well, I guess it would be, 2,048 years then? Or 2,050 years? We're here to fix this 2,050-year-old conflict. Trump wasn't like, I don't know, man. If people ain't paying attention now and people ain't moving, they almost deserve it, right? Because we're asking for it. And I'm about to get ready to get off here in a minute because we've been on an hour. I do apologize for the computer. That was not my fault, man. Literally had all the tabs set up, most of the videos set aside, which is interesting that it just kept freezing on. Because the maps are interesting, especially for those that are listening. Take the congressional maps, the states that are currently in play, and then overlay that with the Confederacy maps. And heritage is important. Heritage is extremely important. America's at its 250th birthday, 251st, 250th birthday mark. That would be, 8 generations in poor families, 4 generations in wealthy families. And if you ask me where I get that number from, we're talking about life expectancy. 40 years is a big difference. Dying at 65 and 70 and dying at 98 and 87 is a huge difference. Right, from what you can pass down, what you have accumulated, and what you can embed in future generations that it's coming from. So for those that don't want to go back to forced indoctrination and forced servitude, I suggest you stop looking at this as immigration control, crime control, or simple racism. Now, let's not deny racism is the underlying driver of low vibrational, small-minded folks. That's real. But the reality is the people that are driving the car probably aren't that low vibrational, small-minded. And if they're not that low vibrational, small-minded, stop being the fool before you are the victim. We've been watching Politics is War. Appreciate y'all for watching. Thank you for the comments. Definitely will keep working to get better. And I apologize again for the computer issues because I have no explanation for that. None whatsoever.